Welcome back to Dice at Dusk. Today I'll be talking about the 4 to 7 player game Growl by Joey Vigour. Growl is a card-based social deduction game where there are humans and werewolves. The humans are just trying to stay alive, while the werewolves are trying to either kill or convert the humans into werewolves. This game is played by first dealing one card to each player. Now, depending on the player count, will depend on how many wolf zeros, they call them, will start in the game. But you're going to be either given a gold card or a bite card. And if you receive a gold card, then you are a human. But if you receive the bite card, then you are wolf zero. After that, you're going to deal out 3 more cards to each player. And each player will then take those cards and look at them. If for whatever reason you have 3 wounds, which I'll get to what wounds are a little later, then you just put those back into the deck and redeal 3 cards to that player. But if you have 3 bites, which again I'll get back to that a little later, you will be an additional wolf zero. So there is a slight possibility. It's not the greatest of possibilities, but there is a slight possibility that you could start with multiple wolf zeros. Now in a 4 to 5 player game, there's going to be just 1 wolf zero. So if that was to happen, then there would be 2. But in a 6 to 7 player game, then you're going to start with 2 wolf zeros. So if that was to happen, then you would actually start with 3 wolf zeros if you ended with 3 bites. But the cards that you can get are first the bite card. The bite card, if a human ever has 3 bite cards, they will become a werewolf. The next one you can get is a charm card. The charm card just negates the bite cards. The next one is the wound card, which I talked about. And if at any time you have 3 wound cards, you will be killed and removed from the game. However, the next card is a salve card. And if you have a salve card in your hand or multiple salve cards in your hand, then these will negate a single wound. So for every salve card you have, you'll negate 1 wound. The next card is the hex card. And this one is pretty powerful because if you have a hex card in your hand, it negates all the charms in your hand. And this would mean that if you had 3 bites in your hand and you're a human, and then you had 2 charms in your hand, you're still not going to be a werewolf because you have those charms that are negating some of those bites. But if somebody was to give you this hex card, then that means you are now a werewolf because all of your charms are just useless. And once you turn into a werewolf, you're always a werewolf. So even if you got rid of this charm card, which you can do, but I'll get to that, then you are still a werewolf because you turned into one before. The final card is a gold card. And this is a card that just really, it's worth victory points at the end of the game. Then that will just carry over with these tokens into a next game. And really you can just track the game, or game after game, a series of games. But how do you set the game up? You set the game up by taking the rest of the cards after they're all dealt out. You dealt out your initial 1 and then your 3. You take the deck and then you put in night cards. These night cards are really where everything happens, where you start to really see or be given things and try to figure out who is who. So on the night cards, they will have a special ability. So every one of them has a special ability. And it also starts the night phase. And in the night phase, you'll be passing 1 card to your left and 1 card to your right. And this is really how the werewolves will pass their bites. So if a werewolf has a bite or 2 bites in his hand, he can pass it to the left and pass it to the right. And then those bites would be in the neighboring people's hands. And everybody around the table does this. And then what they do is they call it the play area. They pick those cards up and then shuffle them so they don't know who handed what to them, and then look at them. So if there was a bite card, then you would know that either the person to your left or the person to your right was a werewolf. The thing about bite cards is a human cannot pass a bite card. Only werewolves can pass a bite card. So if you do receive a bite card, then it came from a werewolf, unless somebody's just playing the game wrong. But that's how a werewolf spreads those bites and starts converting the humans. Also, when you're playing through the game, there's a final night card, which is the bottom of the deck. And this is just the last round, and much like the night cards, the same thing will happen, but there's another special ability, and there are only 2 final night cards in the deck, so you're gonna shuffle those 2 up, and you're only gonna use 1. Same with the night cards. There are 4 night cards, and you're gonna shuffle them up and then choose 2 to put in your deck. But how do you set up the deck? The deck is really the counter for the game. Once you get through the deck, the game is over, and then all the wolves will start howling, and then you know if there's just one human left, then the humans won. But if everybody around the table is howling, then the werewolves won. But the deck itself, you're going to set up a certain way. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that final night card and place it face down on top of the face down deck. And then you're going to go about a third of the way in, and then place one of those night cards in, and then go another third of the way in and place another night card in. And then what you're going to do is take that face down deck and flip it over so you actually see the face of the card. You see what is on the card. Then you're going to go around in circles, or around in an order around the table, and you're going to look at that card, and whoever's turn it is going to give that card to somebody. Now this is when you can, say why you should have it or why you shouldn't have it, and you're just trying to plead your case. You can say whatever you want to either get it or not get it. So if you're a human, you're going to want, all those charms and salves. Well, maybe a werewolf is going to want a few bites and try to figure out how he can get those bites. Or maybe the werewolf wants to just, if it's his turn, he's going to try and figure out who is another human, and he's going to give those bites that way. But that's really how the game plays. You go around and every card you're just giving out. And then when that night phase comes is when you'll do the night phase where you'll pass the card to your right and you'll pass the card to your left, and then you shuffle them up and see what you have. And that goes through until you hit the second night phase, and you do the same thing. And then your final night phase is that last card in the deck, because now that final night phase is actually on the bottom, and that's the last round, and that would signify the end of the game, and you just figure out who's a werewolf and who's not. So this game, it does play fairly quickly. It's a set timer, so no matter how many players you have, it's going to be basically the same amount because there's a fixed number of cards in the deck. So depending on how much arguing there is or debate there is around the table, for the most part, you're going to have a fixed time limit on this game. And I do really like that about it, that there really is a fixed time. The other thing about it is that even though there is player elimination, because the werewolves can kill off all these humans, or even the humans can kill the werewolves, the game plays so short that it really doesn't bother me that there is a player elimination. I would say that the only thing about the night cards is it really, with those special abilities that are on the night cards, it almost felt like a secret Hitlerish type thing where you're given these policies and you can almost plan when you're going to place a certain policy if they're given to you, depending on the abilities that you're going to get. So in a game like Secret Hitler, you might play, a fascist policy, even though you're not a fascist, just to get an ability. In this game, it's a little different because it's randomized, because you're putting these night cards in that have that ability, and you're putting them in a random spot. So really, the same person could get every night card, and I don't really like that about it. It didn't kill the game by any means, but it definitely is something that I wish was just a little bit more fixed. That wasn't so random. The other thing is, and I could see people really liking this, is that whole keeping track of who won and points over a series of games. I don't see myself doing that, but I could see others doing that. I would just play this game as like a single game and just play it 3 times. I don't really feel that there's a need to kind of keep score throughout the game and throughout many games. But it is, it was play tested, and he did say that people really like that. I just, again, don't know if it would be something that I used. But overall, the game is a very fun and neat little game, and it plays so quickly that it's something that you could play in a filler game. I love having a quick social deduction game in between 2 games on a game night. I think that it fits. It breaks up the mood. You could play 2 serious games and then just have that filler fun game where, that social deduction games, and they fit perfect as a filler game. And this one's definitely no different because of how quick it plays and really how much interaction and how much fun you can have doing it. Now, I did talk to Joey about the things, that I thought about it and the ups. I definitely think there's more ups than downs. But what he told me was, I have about 25 new cards I am working on for expansions and considering new powers, and possibly will include new variants, etc. Main goal is to keep the game as short as possible in a basic system before expanding to more interesting territory. Now, I definitely really am excited about these extra cards, because what I like about it, and this is where the game is so interesting. So you have those blight cards and those charm cards, and having those cards that negate them. I just think that's an awesome, just a very unique aspect of this game, or mechanism of this game. And that's what that's probably my favorite part of this game. When I was playing, I had 4 bites in my hand, and then I had 3 of these charms to negate them. But then once I got that hex card, it just completely negated all those charms, and it was just, you're not telling people that you don't want to tell people that you're a werewolf, or even try to give off the hint that you might be a werewolf, because then people won't trust you. So you really, it's hard almost when you get that bite card and you're like, oh man, I'm a werewolf now. But you really don't want to give that off. And overall, I think the game was great. It was fun to play, and it was, like I said, it was very quick and very easy to play. My only big gripe is that randomness, but even the abilities are a nice touch. I like having those abilities where you can that person's going to be able to do certain things. But overall, like I said, it was a very fun game. Now, this game will be coming to Kickstarter in March, so make sure you check it out and leave comments below. Tell me if you want to back it or if you will back it. And subscribe, share this video, and visit diceatdusk.com for articles, reviews, everything like that. Until next time, play more games.